we're going.
Doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, I haven't heard any music.
Well,
You have to hit S.
can we?
Yes.
You're listening to Thunderheads, a podcast for Thunder fans by Thunder fans.
Welcome to Thunderheads midweek podcast. We got a little special one today. Trade deadline special, I guess if you want to call it. Even though the Thunder didn't really make any moves, we're gonna get into it though. I am Brandon Soul. I'm joined by the Thunder Time himself, Mr. Justin Wright.
I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Oh,
I know this. I know this.
Billy Madison.
There you go.
Yes.
Ooh, nice.
Woo, I am on fire on these things.
Doctors in the house. Rob Larson.
Go to hell, Bob Barker. I don't know what the exact thing is.
What a disastrous start to this podcast.
Bob Barker was in Happy Gilmore.
Good one,
Yeah.
Wait, what was the line
Billy.
from?
Billy Madison.
Oh,
Oh, Jesus.
you're going to die, Penguin. Is that?
That's
Yes.
it.
better.
Yeah,
There you go. This man, dark and stormy, Jason Lewis.
Yes, sir.
It's been weird for me, guys, like since our new setup.
We keep changing around.
Yeah, because I'm like I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. I'm in such a muscle memory routine, and now it's changing up, and it's kind of fun.
Throwing you off.
Trade deadline day. No moves made by the Thunder, which is I think a little unexpected. I think all of us, most everyone, expected the Thunder to make some sort of move, even if it's small. Cavs end up making all of the moves. I'm pretty sure they made every trade today.
All of the trades
Sort of how like
went through.
well, they sent
Cleveland.
out 6 guys.
Oh my God, their whole team is
Which is the most
completely different.
since like the 80s or something ridiculous. No, I think it's like 2004, but that's basically the 80s. Same thing.
Might as well be.
It's the same thing. So let's just get right into it. Are you disappointed that the Thunder didn't make a move?
Yeah, a little bit. Not like so much to where it's like Presti's an idiot and he's making mistakes. It's just that you go into it expecting, given the injury to Robertson, and then already kind of hoping that they would do something even before that happened. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of disappointment in the fact that nothing happened, but it doesn't mean nothing will happen. Obviously, there's still more time to kind of shore up the roster. So
Sure, with
a
the
little bit
biomarker
of
and
disappointment.
everything.
Yeah.
Jason, you
Yeah,
agree?
I'm pretty much in the same tone. Like, I was expecting them to do something, especially with Robertson going down. And I'm kind of bummed, because it's a little exciting whenever there's trades happening.
Yeah.
But also, I guess I'm leaning towards like Presti must just have not been able to find something that worked for him, and so I trust him enough to think that like if there was a trade out there, I don't want him to jeopardize the future. Like we've talked about that several times. Like I'd rather make sure we keep our assets that are important, like Ferguson. Like he probably could have moved Ferguson and gotten whatever, like a pretty good piece, but obviously they didn't want to do that. That had been said multiple times before
that's
the
probably
deadline.
that's probably a big part of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think if he was willing to move Ferguson, they could have got one of these guys that didn't get moved today. Tyreek Evans. The list kind of goes on, but mainly Tyreek Evans. I feel like Marcus Smart was out there. Avery Bradley. Some of these guys that you probably could have got for Terrence Ferguson, at least being a part of the trade, has to be part of it, right?
Yeah, there's a little dead air there. That's my bad. I should have stepped up to the plate there. Look, I'm not disappointed because the whole thing with Terrence Ferguson. I think what they see in who Terrence Ferguson can be is kind of like Robertson. It's a little different. You almost go back to there was Tabo and there was Dre. And it was young Dre, and Dre had to figure out how to come into his own. And now you've kind of got the same thing with Ferguson becoming that next, like, I'm going to be a really good wing defender, maybe score a little bit, trying to figure himself out. So the fact that they're going to hold on to him and use him as we're going to develop you, you're part of the long-term plan for this franchise, I think that was really great. You kind of got the sense as the day progressed, like, there's just no assets there that the Thunder have.
Right.
They couldn't do anything.
Especially if you make
Yeah.
Westbrook, Adams, Melo, Paul George all untouchable.
Well, and the first-round picks. Well, when you can't trade a first-round pick, people only want picks or they want to dump money right now. So
And maybe Presti values Ferguson in a way where this is a little cold-blooded to say, but you lose Robertson. Maybe there's a little worry in the back of his mind, like, what if he's never the same again?
Right.
This guy Ferguson, I feel like eventually he can step in and play that role, not necessarily defensively to the capabilities that Robertson possesses, but, make up for it a little bit on the offensive end. That could be a part of it.
It could be. I think the biggest question is, why wasn't there a move made? Like, is it because teams just didn't value what Oklahoma City has?
Right.
Which very well could be. You're assuming that Terrence Ferguson is the closest thing that Oklahoma City Thunder have to a first-round pick to offer, but maybe even teams didn't want that. Like, maybe that wasn't something that they were interested in. And so then, if they weren't, obviously, I don't think, unless you're looking for just to have somebody on an expiring deal, Oklahoma City doesn't have anything that really entices, you would think, because no deal was made. So I think if there was a deal to be made out there, I think Sam Presti would have pulled the trigger.
Yeah.
And so I wonder what it says more so. Was Presti just really unwilling to part with Ferguson, or did teams out there just not value what the Thunder had to offer?
That's hard to say. It's hard to say if, like, and maybe some teams did value what the Thunder had to offer to a certain extent, but maybe Presti values, for one time in the last couple of years, maybe Presti actually values the assets that he has, the pieces that he has, more than those other teams. Maybe
It's possible, yeah.
Maybe he's not willing to sacrifice the depth, because it's, in the last 2 trades the Thunder have made, they've given up 4 players for 2 players. Now, I
Right.
know those players are Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, but you're sacrificing depth there. Maybe, we talked about it in the past couple pods. I know you brought it up, Rob, that if they're going to make a trade, it's likely going to be a 2-for-1 trade. So then it's 6 players for 3 players coming in. And maybe that's something Presti's looking at, is like, I just don't think we can afford it. I'd rather add a player in the buyout market and keep this depth, because I think that maybe we're okay.
Well, and as quick as it happened, like as soon as the trades that Cleveland made happened, it was almost like this is going to be a huge day. Like, look at all this movement early. You typically expect it to be between like 1 and 2 for it really to blow up. And I mean, Cleveland just went so quick, and I think that they got the guy. They Cleveland and the Lakers kind of got what they expected, and so they moved on it whenever they did. But once that happened, that also kind of goes into it. Like, it set everybody up. Like, look at how active this is right now, and then that was the big part of it, was what Cleveland did, and it never picked back up.
They stole the show today.
Yeah.
It was crazy, because actually, as everything was going on, and you had these reports early in the morning that, Woj was saying that teams are holding on to their first round
Right.
picks. They're not giving up first round picks, which is funny when you go back and think about it, that the Pelicans gave up a first round pick for Mirotic. But no one's giving up a first round pick today. Was there one dealt?
Yeah,
Cleveland gave up the one.
Yeah,
So-
there was a second rounder.
That felt like such good news for the Thunder.
Yeah,
It felt like, oh my God, they might be in play for an Avery Bradley, a Jonathan Simmons. I mean, I guess they just couldn't get it done. Everyone was so greedy with what they wanted.
Right.
You just didn't see a lot of action today. With Cleveland you did, but not with.
Well, it's weird to me. Like, I guess maybe Presti doesn't value or isn't interested so much in the Bellinelli Dedmon thing, because I feel like with the Hawks like resting Bellinelli and being like, you're getting traded, and then that not happening, that's kind of weird to me. That they wouldn't bite on like an Abrinas and a second rounder or something for him.
that is the weirdest one.
Like, that's strange
What if
to me.
this is a gamble from Presti? What if it's saying, you know what, I can't. What if he had a deal in place? The Hawks would have taken Abrinas in a second rounder for Bellinelli or for Dedmon or whatever. But this is a gamble on Presti's part, saying, I think the buyout market's going to be so thick that I don't think I need to give up anybody. I think I might be able to get someone that I like without giving up anybody. That could be a possibility, right?
It's definitely something, or you could go with the flip side, and GMs are just tired of fielding phone calls from Sam Presti. That they just don't even want to answer the phone call. But it seems like this buyout market is going to be at least a little bit interesting, especially for the Thunder. That I think Sam was just like, I'll roll the dice. We'll see what happens, and if we don't get anything, I'm fine with the roster, the way this roster is built. But obviously, you'd like to get something a little bit more.
It's a little scary, though, because, the team is who the team has been since Robertson's gone down.
Yeah.
And that team is 1-4 since Robertson's been out for the season. And I think on the year they're 7-9 on the year without Robertson. Obviously, a big win at Golden State the other night without Robertson. Houston starts. Is that what we're going to see going forward?
Yeah, I think you have to. I think that's what not just because they won. I mean, it just made sense to go with that because Terrence Ferguson wasn't working as a starter.
And Ferguson completely out of the rotation in that game.
Yeah, and I don't expect that to happen.
Yeah. Just maybe matchups in that game.
Probably so.
Big
yeah.
game, needed to win.
And I think you worry a little bit about, like momentum in that game could have shifted so quick. And if Ferguson isn't there, he's not playing well, he wasn't shooting well.
Yeah.
Like I think you could have just turned it so quick. And then imagine his confidence then. Like if they, if that were to happen, and whenever you put him in, it could have happened at any time.
Yeah.
It didn't really matter. But if you put him in and it flips like that, like I think you've kind of shot him. Especially for like the near future.
Might be one of those things that you were just like, I'd rather just sit you just watch.
Right.
Watch and learn. Realize what you haven't been doing, what you have been doing. Just kind of figure it out on yourself. Not that Houston's gonna step in and be like, "I'll show you." No, but Houston,
He did all right, though.
Houston did a good job. You got to give credit to Houston, but that's still scary. You're going into the playoffs. I think most people expect the Thunder to win their first round matchup, which maybe is a little too confident. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm one of those. I expect the Thunder to win their first round matchup. But if you're the away team in that first round, you're playing Minnesota, a good team. I don't think it's just a sure thing. So even then, it's a little scary to have a guy like Houston starting, right? A virtual rookie. So is in the buyout market, is that what? I mean, you have to think the Thunder are a player in the buyout market. That is what they're banking on, right? They're not. There's no way.
They have to be.
Yeah, there's no way. This is the team for the rest of the year, right? There's one more guy out there at least that they're getting.
So Panther Fan 13 on this thing, he said, "Who do you guys want us to target in the buyout market?" He says he doesn't like the Joakim Noah fit or ISO Joe. He'd love Marco. And what about Shabazz Muhammad?
So Marco Bellinelli was somebody that we had talked about, especially whenever the Hawks came out. The deal was talked about. Where'd you guys fall? Because I don't think Brandon, I don't think you liked it, right?
I liked it with Robertson,
after Robertson,
but without Robertson, like that's where today falls for me. Without Robertson, today feels better. Like I'd have been more upset if the Thunder had Robertson healthy and they didn't make a move today than I am without Robertson and didn't make a move. And I know that sounds
Is that like holding on to their
opposite
assets kind of idea, or like?
I think kind of. I don't want the Thunder to panic in this situation.
Right, yeah.
And I think maybe some of it is in the back of my mind saying I just don't think the Thunder can win it this year. I don't. So why sacrifice things? Because who knows what the market's going to be like. If people are valuing their first round picks so much this summer, maybe that means they're not willing to throw money at these free agents, being Jeremy Grant, being Josh Huestis.
Right.
Maybe these are guys you can actually retain this summer, especially Jeremy Grant, especially Josh Huestis. These are wing defenders that you can retain on this roster, and this roster is built to guard teams like Golden State. So maybe Presti is sitting back saying, you know what, I think I can get these guys for cheap. And I think instead of having an expensive, I mean, obviously the roster is going to be expensive going forward, but
like
instead
the bottom end of the roster, keeping that cheap, like that's you kind of have to do that right now.
And young and cheap, not old and cheap,
right.
but young and cheap.
Well, you look at like Lou Williams, who signed the extension.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it was just under $9 a year. I think, wasn't it?
I think it was less than that, but
yeah, it was like 8 something is what I was thinking. But you figure like a guy who is playing incredibly well, he probably left money on the table. Like he maybe could have gotten like 11 or 12 maybe. But still, I mean, they got him for 8.5, we'll say, or whatever. I don't have the exact number.
Yeah.
But then you start to look at, well, if he's doing that with having such a good year that he's having, like, what does that say about Houston?
On one hand, I guess you could say maybe he's sick of jumping around.
Could be.
And maybe he likes it in LA, and he's just like, you know what, they're giving me
just
freedom.
wanna stay
This
here,
team's gonna be bad for a while, and I can just go
Like,
up
I
there.
can just put up my shots.
Throw up shots. Yeah,
He's got the green light.
It's gonna be fun. But on the other hand, you might be exactly right. And so it's a weird thing here because I totally expected to move from the Thunder today, but it's one of those things after the deadline. I'm like, you know what? I kind of trust Presti today because I feel like he knows what he's doing. And I don't know if that necessarily means that Paul George is staying or Paul George is leaving or anything. Like he has any sense of that. I don't know if it's even related. I think it's more just weighing your options and saying, I think this is the best move for us going forward.
Justin felt the same way, right? You thought that you felt better about it, that he's going to stay pat?
Yeah, obviously you always like to see something new and something fun, but yeah, I'm kind of with Brandon. It's just, it seems like it's going to be one of those things where you try and make a little bit of a run at it. You do what you can in the playoffs, it's probably going to end with Golden State winning a championship anyways.
But-
That's just the unfortunate.
Whoa.
I think,
I don't know about-
well, here's what I think the big thing is, though. Let's say they get Golden State in the second
2-zip
round,
OKC.
and let's say they lose in 6 in their close games. I think then you're sort of questioning, like, man,
Damn, maybe we should have gotten it.
how
Yeah.
maybe we were closer than we thought we were.
Then you can go hindsight, I guess.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
the
But-
truth is, no one knows what was on the table.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That's the hard
also I would say that more so than like, man, we should have made a trade. I think more so you go back to Detroit, Michigan, and like, if Andre Robertson doesn't blow his patellar tendon, we're winning the NBA championship.
true, but we do know that at this point that he's
Right.
I like
done,
how we're getting
and-
future sad about it again. I'm like, oh,
And I
that
don't
did
think
suck.
nobody's
Even more
saying-
than it did.
Nobody here is saying that the Thunder are going to win the championship.
But
so.
but do you think that plays a part? Because okay, the truth is Thunder are 2-0 against Golden State. They appear to
2-zip
match up
OKC.
pretty well.
plus 37.
Plus
out of those
37,
games.
a blowout win, the largest defeat against Golden State at Golden State in I don't know how long.
And they never led in the game.
Never led for the first time since 2012 in a home game. That's something. It's
pretty good.
You can't just say it's nothing. I know Golden State's not playing their best basketball right now, but it is something. Now, you go into a playoff series, the Thunder are not going to be favored. No one's going to pick the Thunder.
No.
That's perfect for us. We win the games where we're underdogs.
But the Thunder have kind of exposed a little something that maybe a little weakness in Golden State. You know what they did? I talked about it on the solo pod. You run them off the three-point line, you make these guys make plays. If they just said,
And then Paul George steals the ball whenever they try to make a play.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy.
I mean, that's what's brutal about no Robertson, though. Because
Yeah.
not if you have both Robertson
Oh, God.
and Paul George out there, what are you going to do
Remember
with
how
all
fun
those
that
arms?
was?
Oh, God.
It was so
You
fun.
got future sad and just current
Present
sad.
sad. I'm very sad.
Both sads.
One of the crazy things about, force them to make plays. As a Golden State Warriors fan, I would imagine it would be so frustrating trying to watch Zaza Pachulia or Looney or even JaVale McGee try and make some sort of play with a basketball 18 feet away from
Yeah.
the hoop. Just like, this guy can't do a damn thing with the round thing in his hands.
Yeah,
was-
I mean, if you're playing Golden State now and you're the Thunder, make them shoot twos. Don't let them shoot threes. I mean, it's easier said than done. And
Especially
they're going
since
to make
they
some
can
of
make
them.
them from half court. That
Yeah.
that hurts a little.
That and sometimes you play great defense and it still goes in. I mean, there's sometimes there's nothing you can do. But that is an interesting thing. So if you get to that point, you go 6 or 7, you're like, well, damn. And you lose, and you're like, well, damn. But I mean, the Thunder are going to become a lot easier to guard over a 7-game series, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you're worrying about 2 players, Russell Westbrook and Paul George, hurting
Don't
you.
forget about old Miller.
Well, I know you got Melo and you got Adams.
really.
But yeah, and Adams. But I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
Adams
like
is way
Adams
more
is going to
important.
change his game. It's not like Adams is over
No.
the course of a 7-game
But
series.
but what we saw is that they don't have an
anything
answer
about
for
him.
him.
True,
That's the biggest
definitely
part.
true. I think their best answer, and
Is
it's
fouls.
sad, fouls and JaVale McGee. If you put an athletic guy out there, that Adams actually has to try to match his athleticism as opposed to match his physicality.
Yeah, I mean he's still
Right. He's better.
destroyed, yeah.
He's just so much better. But that's where this gets hard though. It's like, well, I mean, is that what Presti is basing this whole trade deadline off of? How we're going to match up with the Warriors, how we're going to match up with the Rockets? Because if you look at some of these buyout guys, even if Memphis buys out Tyreek Evans, is he going to choose OKC or is he going to choose a place like Boston? Probably a place like Boston.
Probably.
I can't imagine that happening though. Like
Them buying him out?
Yeah. Why?
Well,
why would you get? I mean, I would
It
think
depends on the player, right?
Like if they
No,
were,
I was talking about
But if they
Tyreek
were
Evans.
going to do that, like why wouldn't they have just traded him today for something?
Yeah, why wouldn't you get something for him
Sure.
rather than nothing?
Then
like I
spend
think
money.
those guys that we thought
That's
we were
true.
going to see, like Avery Bradley, Tyreek, I don't think those guys are going to be there.
Unless you just don't want the salary back.
It could be, but still,
That's my confusion on Bellinelli. I'm like, because now they're being talked about buying him out. And I'm like, why didn't you trade him for something?
I guess it's a salary thing.
But yeah.
It's got to be.
I
No
guess
one
so.
wants salary right now.
Right.
I really think that Bellinelli is of the guys that we've talked about, like he's going to be bought out. Like that's the weirdest thing for me is that you sit this guy, you're like, we're going to trade you. You're dead set. Like
Right.
that's what you're going to do. You are so dead set on that. You don't want to risk him getting hurt.
Right.
Like you're gonna totally remove him and
Same with Tyreek.
then you still hold him. You still hold on to
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah, like till the last second, never getting what you want. Like you saw the reports today with the Avery Bradley thing. The Spurs? The reports where the Spurs
That
offered
was
Danny
so
Green
ridiculous.
and a first-round pick. Didn't seem right.
If the Spurs did that, like, if you're the Clippers, you just go, yeah.
And I think
Please.
the Spurs are a great example to look at here because the Spurs are 500 since January 1st.
Mm-hmm.
They're not playing great basketball. They're ahead of the Thunder in the standings. They didn't make a move today.
Right.
You know that. I know that the Thunder almost have more to play for because you have Paul George in the mix here. I mean, that's the biggest thing to play for.
Don't leave us.
Yeah, don't leave us, right? But I mean, maybe I guess you can find a little solace in the fact that other organizations, other big time organizations, didn't make moves either.
Yeah.
Well, so there's no way Presti knows what. I don't think that Paul George knows what he's going to do yet. So obviously there's no way Presti can know. And you're not going to keep Paul George based off of what you did today regardless.
Agreed.
So there's no reason to sort of sell any kind of future in hoping that you'll keep him because there was nothing that Presti was going to do. I mean, realistically, there was nothing Presti was going to do today that was going to change what Paul George was going to decide to do.
Do you think there's any sense of like trying to sell stability to Paul George? Maybe saying we've been making a ton of trades over the past year or two, and now I just want to show you
continuity is in place here. And
I want to show you that this isn't a chaotic organization. This
Right.
is just like a solid foundation, and we're gonna do what's best for the organization.
We've had such high turnover over the last 2 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, Paul, now you're here. Let's settle down.
Let's figure something out.
Yeah, exactly. Let's have a roster that going back to what you were saying with if the free agent market isn't driving up a bunch of high numbers for these guys, maybe you do feel good about getting Jeremy Grant and Josh Eustace back. You've got that continuity. You've got a roster that can make a lot of things happen, especially against a team like Golden State, against a team like Houston, against Toronto, teams that the Thunder haven't lost to yet.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just that continuity, that home feeling, knowing that he and Russ get along so well, the culture is changing and it's so positive. Maybe that's something to sell Paul George on a little bit more.
I think that's a fair point. And maybe another positive thing to look at is the fact that maybe one of the better trade pieces on this team is Jeremy Grant. Was Jeremy Grant, I should say. And the Thunder have held on to him. And that could be a situation where if they would have traded him, you look at it and you're like, damn, I wish we had Jeremy Grant in this series.
Yeah.
Like, he's a great guy to have in a Houston series. I mean, a great guy to have in that. And a great
Golden
guy,
State.
obviously, he was great in that Golden State.
So good.
So maybe some of the guys that other teams actually wanted were just more valuable to this team than they would be to those teams.
True. Or maybe they didn't want those pieces in the first place. I mean, it could be.
And then it's a win-win, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're Presti.
as long as you can hold on to them.
Yeah. What do you think Grant's market's going to be?
I hope not too much.
It's weird because like you'd really have to like scour every team's payroll and like kind of heading into next year. So, I mean, no one's
Well, and the people that are on top of him, you'd have to see like who's going to go
same
first.
position and
Yeah,
everything.
and like what their market's going to be compared to all of that.
Right.
And it's hard to gauge that right now, especially.
There's no way he gets over 10.
I
No
wouldn't
way.
think so.
No way.
That'd be crazy.
It-
Especially like nobody has money. Like nobody.
Yeah.
The
Just
Hawks have money. The
Like
Lakers
the Suns might, Lakers, but Lakers,
but they're like holding on to that
Yeah.
for dear life. So
Lakers will hold on to all that money in hopes to sign LeBron and Paul George, which we should get into in a second. And then they won't sign either of them. And instead, they'll go sign like these other ridiculous players like Luol Deng for so much money.
They gave Mozgov so much
Yeah.
money, and
well, that was the other guys.
yeah, it was the other guys, but
But it's
still,
still the
I mean,
Lakers.
yeah, they had all of this money. The point is, they've had money before, and
they
nobody
wasted it,
came.
right?
That entire climate was completely different. You look at the contracts that were given out then,
Oh my
and
God.
you laugh at them now because of what the free agency is about to look like. Money has shrunk. There's not as much out there, and teams are starting to be like, oh yeah, we can't do what we did because we can't give Timofey Mozgov a bunch of money because that was really stupid to begin with.
Yeah, it seems like they actually they paid people on the expectation that the market it would continue to go
at
up
the same
Yeah.
rate.
but it doesn't, and then
Yeah.
you're sitting there with that contract.
And the Thunder are guilty too.
Yeah.
Kyle Singler.
Yeah,
I mean,
That's
that's
son of a
such a
bitch.
smaller.
so I asked you guys a couple
But
a question a couple weeks ago, a couple pods ago, maybe it was last week, I think, about
They're all running together. At this point.
yeah, I know. Is it a disappointment? This is, referring back to a couple pods ago. Is it a disappointment on the other side of the deadline? Both the Abrinas and Singler contracts are on the books on this team.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's answer is yes. I don't think you were at that podcast, Rob. But is it a disappointment?
It's definitely a disappointment.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Even though it is, you guys remember when Kyle Singlish signed
God
that?
damn.
It is only $5
I remember
million,
saying
but-
he's the Nick Carlson, but the wing version.
Wow.
What an idiot!
We were all so
Dumbass.
pumped. Like, this is such a good deal. But yeah, it is. It's
But
like,
he used to be good.
It is.
We
good.
have to say we have to establish that every time we talk
so
about
much. I don't know so much as Abrinas as it is obviously Singler, but
him. Singlers is a bummer, man.
it is like.
But hey,
I,
he's
Hey, Abrinas has looked better lately.
I still have hope for Abrinas.
Yeah, me too. You know what? I'm kind of glad he's still on the team in a way.
in a weird way.
He's a guy that
He can shoot.
he can shoot the ball. He stayed on the floor in the Golden State game.
You got to
for
give him that.
24
He did
minutes
have
or
5
whatever.
fouls.
Yeah, he played well.
He played really well. I think
Even when they were running at his throat.
I think you can make a case that was the best game of his career.
Yeah, he shot 3 for 7 from 3 in that game.
That's amazing.
Best game of his career.
43%. We'll take that.
Yeah.
On the road,
Yeah.
and his defense was okay.
Hit 2 steals.
There was a moment.
Yeah. so
There was a moment that he was. Well, there was.
We're talking everyone into
Yeah.
today was a great day.
But there were 2 times that he guarded Steph that I was like, all right, that was pretty
Yeah.
good. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't the best defense I've ever seen, but it's Steph Curry.
I
Like
think it
he
was
did
the-
all right.
I think it was the second quarter. Golden State was just setting a screen on
Yeah.
Abrinas' man, or with Abrinas' man every single time as a screener, making Abrinas switch on to them and just attacking him. And they scored on him like 3 straight
Yeah.
times. But
Whole
Abrinas actually played decent defense
he
on
did
those
okay.
possessions.
And
You're
then
like, well,
sometimes he just does something really like he still ended up with 5 fouls.
Yep.
But in some of them were
course he
some of them were so stupid.
yeah, like a and one dunk. You know, you're like, dude,
Yeah.
just let him have the dunk. And when you're up 19,
What are you
just
going
let him
to
have
do?
the dunk.
Well, yeah.
Well, and when he fouls somebody, it's not like he's hard fouling and wrapping him up. He's like, "You're not scoring."
capable?
He just goes,
You know, I think his biggest
"Oh, I
issue
still made it."
is he's still so weak.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
lacks so
that
much
off-season
strength.
program though, he's lifting.
He needs to
lift-
flip
he's
more
flipping
tires
those
this time.
tires,
He's
yeah.
the ropes.
Yeah.
He was flipping those tires until he got hurt, and then he just like his entire regiment just
Oh,
down the
that's-
drain.
You blame it on putting on weight. He's like, I can't do it anymore.
And like, I
Last
think
time I put on weight, I hurt myself.
he had one possession in that game where it was late in the fourth quarter, and someone came and set a ball screen for him, and he had the ball, and he went left and didn't see anything left, and he crossed it back over right and reestablished the screen. And I was impressed. And then he drove, and then he just passed it out. He didn't make a play or anything, but I was just like,
He
was
dribbled.
patient. Yeah, he was patient. He correctly kind of dictated the offense, and I don't know, got the defense moving a little bit. And I was
Better
like,
than usual.
he had a little confidence there, and I feel like that's been the biggest thing with him is the confidence. So let's shift our focus to the buyout market now, because the Thunder are for sure going to be players here, and kind of the names that you're going to see floating around right now. Tyreek Evans, who I just brought up, which I don't know if he's going to get bought out. Memphis talked about maybe the possibility of keeping him. How would Tyreek Evans feel about that, though? You're going to sit me because you're going to trade me, and then all of
No,
a
you
sudden you
just
want me to
play.
play for you? Like, that sounds a little messed up.
Yeah.
Marco Bellinelli, as you brought up. Joe Johnson.
That's so joke.
Tony Allen.
That old
Boris
son of a bitch.
Diaw, even, who's been playing overseas. Shabazz Muhammad, which the YouTuber asked us about. Brooke Lopez. Has been a name out there. And Joakim Noah.
Please not Joakim. Like
So, any of these names intriguing. And you know, you never know if there might be another veteran out there like Zach Randolph or
Right, yeah.
or whatever.
But the Thunder, what, like, I guess one big article came out today tying us to Joakim, which is it just the Billy Donovan Florida connection? Is that because he's not going to actually play here, right? Can he even stand up?
Well, I think to me, it's if you can just barely pay him any money at all, it's like if there's no other options out there, maybe it's worth taking a flyer on. The fact that he isn't,
has some playoff experience.
yeah, and he brings something different as far as like
Some
he
grit.
likes to pass the ball and he's a rebounder. That's basically all he does. You know?
There's 2 guys I don't want that you named, and it was Joe Johnson and Joakim Noah. Like, I don't want any part.
I don't want Joe Johnson either.
I'm perfectly okay without those people.
I'm intrigued, and this is going to sound crazy. I'm a little intrigued with Joakim Noah. Not that I think it'd be good, but I'm interested to see what if that worked. I'm not saying that like I don't. That's the thing though in this buyout market. I don't know if any of these guys are a factor in the playoffs.
Yeah, but the whole point is that's what you need.
Sure,
Like, that's what we were hoping to get from today was not Robertson, but something kind of a little bit similar.
That's
like,
why if
to fill that gap just a little bit.
That's why
The
we
act-
should have sold for Joakim or for Jonathan Simmons. I don't understand.
Sure, but
I'm reverting back.
if their asking price was too high, and
Buy it.
it goes back to it. So if you want someone that's going to help you out in the playoffs, but still at the same time you're like, well, we have to give this up for that person to help us out in the playoffs. I mean, how much is it really going to help us?
Yeah, because you still got to get to the playoffs.
Right.
But I mean, specifically for Joakim Noah, what you need, Adams should be playing, is going to play a bunch of minutes, hopefully.
Yep.
But even on nights where he gets in foul trouble, you probably will go small.
Yep.
For a lot of the time. And so what you're going to ask out of Noah is probably so small. And so I wouldn't be. I mean, I still don't want it to happen. I don't think that there's a ton of value there. Obviously, if he's on a cheap contract, maybe you can get a little bit, but who knows if he can even play.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It
and-
worries me.
And I think that backup center spot just isn't as big of a need anymore.
Not right now, yeah.
I
You
mean,
got Takari back there. You're fine.
it's the wing. Yeah, and I mean, you're going to have some regular season games where it feels like that backup center spot is the big need. But once you get to the playoffs, maybe against the Timberwolves, like you said last pod, Jason.
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's
Pretty much
where
the
you need it.
only.
Yeah.
I mean,
Rockets, Warriors. I mean,
you
maybe
look at-
Nene.
I think the biggest part, yeah, well, definitely, but I think the biggest
It could
part
be Patterson though.
is the foul trouble issue
Yeah.
that you could see.
Sure.
That's the biggest part.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's hard to bank on
Brook-
that happening though too.
I think Presti would love if Brooke Lopez.
well,
got
yeah,
bought out.
we've been chasing him for a while now.
Right. Yeah.
This would be the easiest way for it to happen.
You know, if I had to predict something, I think the Thunder are going to end up with Tony Allen. I really do.
I mean, that seems like it's pretty likely, right?
Say it just feels like it's going to happen.
Yeah.
It just feels like a broken plug and play with Andre Robertson out there.
Yeah.
Just like, he's the closest thing that's out there.
Yeah.
Might as well go get him, see if it works out.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
And if it doesn't, it doesn't.
but if you're talking about what you're missing with Robertson, and you want to have someone try to just bring you a little bit of that, he's not probably a terrible option, right?
Yeah, he's okay.
It feels low risk, low reward
Right.
for me. There's not really. I mean, I understand why they would want him, but it doesn't. That's not
It's kind of
any
more of a-
expectations that are we're gonna shore up some defensive issues is not happening.
I'll say this, is that if you do bring in Tony Allen, one thing that you could see is you go back to Paul George not having to be on the main guy
occasionally,
all the time. Yeah.
But
You allow him to sag
he's
back
old.
in passing lanes. Cause that's where he excels so much.
right where he
Picking-
was kind of doing free safety kind of situation.
Exactly. Now he was great against Klay Thompson the other night, just
Oh my
falling
God, so
around.
good.
He just doesn't matter how hard a guy tried to set a screen. Paul
didn't
George was
matter.
there the entire time. It was incredible. But
He made
Paul
it look
George
easy.
is incredible.
you
He's
I
so
love
good.
him.
you go back to
I want
that
to take him to the
same
prom.
You could.
that same defensive philosophy where you've got Tony Allen running around with their best score, and you've got Paul George kind of sag back. He can play on ball, he can play off ball, back in those passing lanes. That's at least the best case scenario for bringing in Tony Allen.
Yeah, and I don't know if Tony Allen's a guy that you're going to bring in and expect him to guard their best player.
Well, sure.
But and you can still stick Paul George though. But
Right, but he could still.
You can put him on your second best. So if you're
Right.
playing Houston, you can put Tony Allen on Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels
that'd be
pretty
nice.
good to me. Chris Paul's not going to just blow by Tony Allen because Chris Paul he's not a fast guy.
So let's say they get Tony Allen. What do you expect?
Tony
Where-
Allen's also 57 years old.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you expect from Tony Allen? Does he come in and start? And
I'd expect him to hit
No?
a bunch of threes. No.
I think it's going to be one of those classic things that the Thunder do. They bring in someone not even that he would be a guy that everyone would be like, he should start or anything. But, like when you brought in Karan Butler a few years ago, and it was like, he's playing 30 minutes. Why not just start the dude? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel like it's going to be like that if they were
Probably.
to bring in Tony Allen. And then the playoffs come, you're like, well, we have to start him. We're playing Houston. We're down 2-0 or something like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Let's say we bring in Tony Allen. How many missed layups a game does he have?
Oh, man.
Depends on how many layups a game he gets.
Four
three
layups.
plus.
4 layups.
And
I'm
that
going
is now that you said that that is an underrated part of Robertson's game. The fact that he'll throw it down.
yeah.
Yeah.
He can catch an alley oop.
He
Tony
can
Allen.
miss a layup, but
So
He'll
on
slow
the
down.
flip side, if you don't bring in Tony Allen, let's say you go with Houston, that's who you're going to go with to start. You're not going to maybe you bring in somebody else for the bench. Maybe it is a center or something like that. So let's say, doesn't not bringing in Tony Allen kind of give you a little bit more view of Josh Eustace and maybe a little bit more of a Brenus? Because if you bring in Tony Allen, I'm not saying he's going to play 30 minutes a game or anything, but I still think that there is probably value there if you are saying that the Thunder aren't going to win the championship. Why not see what Eustace can do and get him a little bit more experience and try and figure out what you have on this roster rather than kind of patching it together with Tony Allen?
I get what you're saying. I think it's like at least give yourself like a little, like, let's just see. You know what I mean? I think that's what it would be more about. Like, let's just see.
Which they totally should have done with him
what I
last
mean?
year. But.
Because like you said, it is low risk, and I know you did say low reward, but I think even if you wanted to view it as low risk, potentially medium to high reward with Tony Allen. Maybe he comes in and it's a great fit. He knows how to play with a veteran team like the Thunder. He knows how to win a little bit. He's been a part of decently winning teams. So maybe it is something where you're like, look, we can just pay this guy, $500,000 this year because it's going to be prorated and maybe he'll really help us out.
And they only have one roster spot, right?
Yeah, one roster spot.
Because
Which I was going to
Robertson-
ask you guys if you think there's any chance you buy out Singler, but why would Singler agree to that? I guess why would he? Like I'm making
He's like, nah, I'm good with
$10
this
million
money.
in the next 2 years in my street clothes.
It would have to be somebody. It would really have to be worth it. Like say like something does happen with Tyreek Evans, and you can shore up something
Then you
else
would
later
really
on.
try.
I think then, but it would have to be something really good to actually follow through with that.
Well, let's move on to the trade the Cavs and the Lakers made today and how it affects the Thunder. Because I think this is interesting, and I think a lot of Thunder fans were panicking today when they found out that when the Lakers sent Clarkson and Nance to Cleveland, and the Cavs sent back Isaiah Thomas and Channing Frye to expiring deals, it's going to open up 2 max slots for the Lakers in the offseason. And guess who those number 1 and number 2 targets are going to be? It's going to be LeBron James and Paul George. So, how does this affect Oklahoma City? Is this bad news for Oklahoma City?
It's not necessarily great news. I mean, I feel like the Lakers, regardless of what happened today, they were going to, whatever happened, they're going to make the space if PG and LeBron want to come there. So it's really not that huge of a deal. I don't think people should be like, oh, God, they did it. Because, I mean, technically, Cleveland just, if you think about it that way, Cleveland just paved the way for LeBron to leave themselves, which would be weird.
But at the same time, they did try to attempt to do something with their roster that's just been kind of poisonous.
So that was the mindset when they first made that trade, right? And everybody was like, oh, my God, why would they do that? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, yeah, but we just got super young and quite a bit more talented. So maybe they tempted LeBron to stay there,
I don't think this changes anything. I think the goal was always for the Lakers to open up. They were going to clear roster space so they could get 2 guys. That was the plan a year ago.
Yeah, right.
And so I don't think it really changes anything. Now that it's happened, it is a little scary to now it's in your face, kind of like, oh God, they've done it now. They've set themselves up at least. And
it's like, they're showing their cards a little bit here. They're like, well, now it becomes real. Now Paul George can look at it and be like, oh,
yeah,
like he can see that it's actual thing. And so now that seed is planted in Paul George's head at least a little bit. You got to think. I mean, his quote the other day, whoever he was talking to, where he said, I haven't decided if I'm going to L.A. He literally said that.
Yeah.
I haven't decided if I'm going to L.A. It's between L.A. and OKC.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like what? Yeah.
So that's where it becomes scary a little bit here if you're Presti. And, man, if Paul George goes for nothing, brutal.
Whew.
Brutal.
Yeah, how do we go through this again where it's like, okay, so now we still have Carmelo's contract on the books, and we have Russ, which is great, but now we have all of these young guys so this is what we're going with this again.
We go through a full season of Russell Westbrook playing absolutely heroic basketball, and the year afterwards we get some other all-star inexplicably, and then it's the most amazing thing ever, and we just do it all over
Does this
again.
just become an every other year thing now?
Yeah.
I feel really good that Paul George is going to sign a 1-year deal, though.
I do too.
In Oklahoma City.
So what's real good? Give me a percentage on real good.
75.
Wow.
I do. Because I think that he's going to be like, you know what? It's not fair for me to just leave this year. It's not fair. It's not fair to Russ, who's done everything he possibly can to make me comfortable here. It's not fair to this organization who didn't trade me when they could have and got something for me. He's going to be like, I want to give this another go with this team getting another year better and just do a 1-year deal and see where I stand after that year.
And this is the same guy that went to Indiana and was like, I don't want to be here anymore. Trade me so you guys can get something back for me.
Yeah.
That's true. He's a nice guy.
It kind of makes sense. I mean,
You just sold Jason.
No, I've been sold on this for a while.
Oh, okay.
I thought he was staying
okay.
All right.
like
No,
way long ago.
It makes sense though a little bit. Like, think about putting Russ in that situation if Paul George were to leave. Like, as a friend, if their brotherhood is as tight as they've led on, and you just get up and leave, you know, after Russ resigns for 5 years, and I know this is business, I know, but Russ resigns for 5 years, and then you just get up and leave him.
It's happened to him before.
I know, but then you do it after 1 year, and Russ is like, man, I thought we had something
Why do
here. We
people
could
not
have
like me, man?
we could have we could have had something. Now I got to reset again. I have to do this again.
Just instantly goes to that Fresh Prince dad episode that
So
makes
you're,
me cry.
You're going with a 1 year, basically, because he's not eligible. So he won't be eligible for that super max. And so I think, in a sense, it kind of makes sense for him to kind of put in another year. Unless this all could change. If LeBron goes to LA, I don't know. It's hard for me to believe that Paul George is
Yeah,
staying.
that's the hard
that
part.
would be tough.
But is it believable that LeBron's going to go to LA?
I don't know, because so before today, it was like he's gone.
Yeah.
Like they're not keeping LeBron.
Yeah, it definitely felt
You
like he
could
was
tell
gone because
the
it was a
organization
disaster.
is falling apart. They're not winning games.
That new
It was-
GM though stepped up to the plate.
And so then I think that
He hit a
they're
double.
definitely better today than they were yesterday.
Baseball.
And
Yes.
so they still have to figure out how those pieces fit, and maybe that does buy LeBron 1 year. Maybe he decides
To do a
to do
one-and-one?
another 1 year and then see how
I
that
feel like
goes.
that's how all of his contracts are going to be till the end of his career now.
yeah,
He's-
so
Ah.
they would
I'll
make
sign
sense
for a
in the
year
other
and
way.
then I'll.
Yeah, why commit to anything if
wouldn't
you're
make
him when whoever can get you
Just
will
always-
go after you?
Yeah.
That is what's scary though. If he goes to LA, I mean, it's hard to imagine, like, even if Paul George is like, I think I just want to stay in OKC, and then LeBron's like calls up PG and says,
No.
I'm going to LA. And I mean, Paul George is like, well, the reason I wasn't going to go there is because they weren't going to be any good.
Yeah. Now they're obviously going to be
Yeah,
good.
now you have LeBron.
Is
Well,
this the conversation? I feel like I'm listening to the conversation. You're just playing both parts.
Yeah.
But this is the conversation.
I'm
a
a
good
good
actor.
actor. I'm really good. I'm really good, dude.
I think part of the
really good. Maybe you should go to LA. You're going to leave us, Easton?
Oh man,
We can
part,
do remote.
Part of the thing with LA right
My
now, is
acting's so good they won't know.
one, oh no, you're good. One, Magic Johnson is just going to get consistently fined over the next 365 days.
By the way,
because-
that fine was so ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no, they're terrible, but he's not going to stop tampering. That's all he's going to be doing for the next year, trying to get these guys, and even going into next offseason. He's going to be doing it. He's going to be doing this as long as the NBA doesn't step in and do anything besides basically slap him on the wrist with these fines. He's going to keep doing it. But part of the weird thing about LA is, let's say they do try and bring in LeBron, or they think they can. LeBron's 33. He's probably got quite a bit of tread on these tires. He's that good. You're fighting this weird uphill battle of the Lakers are trying to be good right now, but they don't really have the pieces to be good for another few years. And that's only if those pieces develop really well.
Right. There's a
Obviously-
lot of question marks
Yeah,
as to whether, is Brandon Ingram going to be as good as they think he's going to be?
But I think that stuff
But
is
does it
not
matter?
relevant because I think that if the Lakers bring in Paul George and LeBron James,
They're
guess
good.
who?
They're
It's
good.
going to be a Golden State situation
Yeah.
where David West signs there for a minimum.
Yeah.
All these guys go sign there for a
David
minimum
West.
to try to get a championship. They're like, oh, LeBron's playing there, Paul George's playing there.
Well, it's like Draymond said about,
and I can live in LA.
I guess Draymond got quoted today about talking about the Cleveland trades, and they were like, they still have LeBron James, so none of it matters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but that
Yeah,
concept, pretty much is true. They have LeBron, they're probably got a good chance to go to the finals,
Right.
Because he's pretty damn good at basketball. It
You
turns
just
out.
think about the terrible idea of even more
Oh, in the West,
great players coming
I
west.
hate it.
And that you got to think LeBron's thinking about that too, at least a little bit, right? Because
gotta
how
be
many?
harder
What
for him.
7 straight finals for him?
Yeah,
You don't
you
want
don't
to
leave that.
That's a pretty impressive streak, even if you're not winning them.
Might end this year though.
You might not. Do you think it will?
Maybe he's got to figure out.
No, maybe.
He's got to figure out
You're
this
saying
whole new
it-
team.
So
Yeah.
you're basically saying it could happen that he doesn't.
It could happen, maybe, possibly. But I could
Hot
definitely
take.
see the Celtics going to the finals this year.
Yeah. Or Toronto.
Or
So I got a question for you guys. Who's one guy that you were really shocked? Who's the guy who didn't move that you're the most shocked by?
I'm gonna say Tyreek,
Yeah, that would be
just
a
because
good one.
I mean it's kind of the Bellinelli situation where they're like, hey, we're gonna sit you and not play you until the trade deadline,
Yeah.
and then you didn't do shit.
That
I'd
one's weird
probably
because
jump on your
it's so
ship there.
strange.
It's hard to figure out what are the Grizzlies doing if they're, if you're not moving him, like what? I don't
Yeah,
know.
what is
it's so
the
weird.
plan?
I can't figure out what they're doing. But I will throw out. I actually thought DeAndre Jordan was going to be.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
I really thought that was going to happen. I thought
That's
that
a
the
good one.
Clippers weren't going to just be like LA means you're going to the Lakers. Like let's move DeAndre Jordan. Let's create some cap space here,
Mm-hmm.
and let's see if LeBron will come to LA, but just play for the Clippers. Like
That'd
I
be
really
so weird.
as
That would be.
as we were hearing some rumors throughout
Those
the
ticket
day
prices
today.
would flip. so
I really
fast.
thought he was going to move, and I was kind of happy for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleveland would have been interesting for him.
Yeah.
Toronto would have been really
Toronto would have
interesting.
been awesome.
I agree.
I was
Because
kind of excited about that Toronto
I
thing.
kind of like Toronto's team.
Yeah.
I picked them in the preseason to not be very good. I picked
Yeah.
them to have like their down year to be the East Clippers, and they've proven me wrong, man. They've been really good.
They're a better regular season team than a playoff
They
team. though.
and they have been, yeah. But their bench is like super good this
Yeah.
year. They have a really good bench.
Which made it
DeMar
seem like-
DeRozan is hitting threes
he's
now.
so good.
Which made it seem like that's how they were going to get it done. Like
Yeah.
they actually had pieces. It was a little disappointing. I was a little disappointed that he didn't end up somewhere else other than the Clippers.
Yeah, maybe it'll be better. Maybe it'll work out.
You could.
Want to do some Twitter questions?
Tweet, 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 tweet.
From at Thunder Tie, will there be bathrooms on the bus?
Wait,
What bus?
I just want.
that was your own tweet?
Yeah.
At us.
Yep.
At us?
Yeah. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be there. Might as well tweet.
I
Thanks
like
for
it.
the question.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I don't know what it means, but thanks.
It's just a joke. It's just.
You keep saying that it's just a joke.
It's a total inside thing that I just. Yeah. it
Okay.
was- yeah.
Okay.
I think there
Uh,
might be, just to go with that.
I hope there is.
Yeah,
There's a possibility that there will be bathrooms.
I gotta pee. From Ben
I have to
Burke
pee too.
at Ben Burke
Always.
10. What's the best fast food fried chicken in Oklahoma City?
Ooh.
Fast
food.
food.
Canes.
Does that, yeah, so
Cane's
the
is pretty
chicken
good.
fingers count.
Chicken Express is pretty solid.
I've never had Chicken
Ooh, that's
Express.
pretty good.
Chicken
Chi-
Express is not as good as Kane.
Yeah.
It has the
No.
word express in it. You know, like that.
Turns you off?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
I haven't been to this Zaxby's place yet. Has anybody else?
Zaxby's is
I
good.
haven't eaten chicken.
Zaxby's is
Not as
My
solid.
good as
stomach
Cane's?
is growling
Yeah.
so much right now. Talking about this.
I would say I would still say Canes.
Cane's.
I think
It's probably not fair to say like Chick-fil-A, right? Because
No,
they're
that's not local.
I think it's fair.
Is Cane's,
Is
Cane's
it?
isn't really local though.
It's Louisiana
Yeah.
or something like that.
So that's not.
okay. So then I'm
You're going
You're,
Chick-fil-A?
you're
I'm
fine
going
with
Chick-fil-A,
Chick-fil-A.
yeah.
All right.
Wait,
I'll
you
go-
guys didn't say.
I'll go Canes.
Okay. Wait, you going Chicken Express?
I'll go Popeyes if we can pick Louisiana stuff.
Oh.
I don't know.
fucking love
I think I've only
Popeyes.
had Popeyes once.
I've never eaten Popeyes.
So good.
Really?
You guys are missing out.
Underwhelming.
What?
Yeah.
Beef.
All right, moving on. Yeah, just no.
You said
Get
beef.
out of here with Popeyes.
Beef.
From Thunderup at my name is Devin. Is my
That's
memory
fried beef.
correct in remembering that PG and Russ had an exceptional chemistry last time Melo was injured? Do you still expect a buyout to happen? Are you less
many
confident
questions.
about PG staying after his latest comments? And is it okay for me to cry now?
Sounds like you're getting all that out.
Yeah, there's a lot.
All I heard was, is
Devin
it
had a
okay
lot
for
to
you to
say.
cry? And I'm going to say yes to that.
It's
Go ahead.
always okay to cry.
A buyout's gonna happen. Someone's coming to Oklahoma City. This is not
gotta.
the exact team heading into the playoffs.
Gotta.
I guarantee that.
Or if it doesn't,
No
we're
way.
going to be very
Yeah,
confused.
there's no way that could happen.
Like,
Yep.
why just leave an open roster spot? Be weird.
Yeah, I don't. Can't do it. Can't do it. Got to bring in someone.
Not gonna do it.
Yeah. Do you think? Do you think?
George Bush.
Do you think that the exploitation by the Thunder on Golden State the past two games, showing their weaknesses to a certain extent, do you think that has Golden State scrambling in any way?
No.
No.
Really?
I
I
don't
just
really
think-
I
think.
kind of think it does.
I don't really think they mind.
What do you mean by scrambling?
Meaning they're like, we got to get someone at this spot. Maybe like a Joe Johnson, a guy on their bench like that can score a little bit. So
I mean, they've gotten dominated In 2 games.
We kicked that.
I'll say that. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that felt good.
I'll say this. I think their front office and maybe Steve Kerr a little bit, yeah. I think their players are so far up their own asses
That's
that
true.
they don't even. They're just like, oh, we'll just roll the ball out in playoffs and we'll kick Thunder's ass.
I want them to be like that.
I do too.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yes.
I also want them to get 6 techs every time we play them.
So,
Same.
Panther Fan 13 from YouTube says, "What do you guys think about Vince Carter being bought out? Feels like he can still come in and play 15 to 20 minutes.
I don't know.
Isn't he like 50?
He's 41.
He's 40. Yeah.
So I don't know. I wouldn't have any faith in it.
66K Sis said he'd rather have 40-year-old Vince Carter than a 36-year-old Tony Allen.
I disagree.
I don't know. I think I'm with
Yeah, I
him.
would disagree with that too.
That 5 years is a big difference.
I'm with him though because Vince can still score.
Yeah, but I don't think
That's
I
not
think
what
if
we
you're
need
gonna bring in
necessarily.
a guy like that, I'd rather just bring in a guy that can play a little defense.
That you can plug in. For
Yeah, because
Dre.
you're not like I think there's situations where you could if Tony Allen can still defend. I think there's situations last 5 minutes of a game you can still put him in. Vince Carter, there's no chance.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to do that.
From
His
T.
knees
Unless he had a wheelchair.
will break.
He is averaging 5 points a game this season. So
Killing.
One of those games he
Boom.
got
Oh,
20
man.
something. So
From T.
that must be rough.
Our boy at Drinking Tea. Is it possible OKC waives someone to open up 2 roster spots for potential buyouts?
talked about this a little
I
bit.
suppose it's possible. I mean, Dakari's only making 800 and something thousand, so maybe they could waive him. I don't think they want to do that though.
Yeah.
There's no
They
way
seem
they
alright
want to
with
do
him.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible, but I doubt it happens. I bet they just get one white
One
buyout.
white guy?
One white guy. That's probably true too.
From Johnny Callahan at Johnny Boy 19. Between Joe Johnson, Tony Allen, Bellinelli, and any other likely buyouts at the 2, who would you most like to have? And who is the most likely to want to come here?
I think the key is that second part.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you think is the most likely? I think it's between Allen and Bellinelli.
Yeah.
I think it's Tony
For sure.
Allen.
Yeah, I do too. I think that he respects this organization.
Yeah, all those battles in the playoffs, just like, hey, I don't have to be on the other end of this. I can just go win with them. That sounds fun.
Bellinelli strikes me as a guy that you throw out, you might throw out in a playoff game and he might get you a 3 or 2, but then he gets scored on 3 straight possessions. You're like, we can't have him on the court.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we already have Abrinas to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I
was
do
solid
think
he's
right
so
there.
good at that.
I do think
It's basically his best feature.
of those 3, who would you want the most?
Tony Allen for me.
See, I want Bellinelli. I think it could be interesting. Not going to help defensively.
I'd be intrigued, but I'm going Tony Allen.
I think I'd go Bellinelli.
I'm going Tony Allen.
All right. Ben Greer, do you think we can legit compete with the Warriors this year? Seems like it.
Every time, like before Tuesday night, I said no.
Right.
And then Tuesday night happens, I'm like, well, shit, man.
Maybe.
Like, we look so... When Russ comes out with that fire and our team comes out with that energy, we haven't got to talk about this game as a group, but... I mean, that makes you think. You're
One,
like,
it's like,
damn.
and it's like every game that we play a really good team, they have that. All of a sudden, it's there, and so that makes me think like once they get to the playoffs, is that going to be there every game in the playoffs? Because if it is, this team's going to be difficult.
And the crew on that game, whoever's calling that game, I can't remember if it was halftime or the actual play-by-play guys, but they were saying one thing about this Oklahoma City team: they're not scared of the Warriors.
Yeah.
They're not scared to play them.
Right.
Russ is not scared of them.
At all.
PG's not scared of them. Melo's not scared of them. Melo might be a little scared.
I also
of them.
love how PG seems to take this game personally.
Agreed.
Like he brings that. He's already like angry at them for us, which I didn't expect.
This is really that's the team that Paul George really is going to show his value.
Right.
Like it's amazing that he just completely steps up.
He was so good.
And, yeah.
So good. You guys remember
Beautiful
how
to
good
watch
he
play
was?
basketball, man.
He was so good.
beautiful to watch play basketball. It's just when he hits like a couple threes in a row, you just like.
Especially
fall
when he
back in your
steals
chair.
the ball on one end and then goes back and steps back and hits a 3 in KD's face. And
I
you're
don't
all
think
just
I've
like,
ever been happier than that.
That's the greatest thing he's ever done in his
when
life.
he straight shook Kevin Durant out of his shoes, out of his snaky shoes.
That's like #1 accomplishment in Paul George's life. Like his kids probably
And
5th
he gets
and 6th.
he gets the Warriors to yell at each other.
Oh yeah,
It's great.
perfect. Man, I really like him.
Keeping on this buyout theme from KO at Kobe Wang. Oh, Kobe Wanjinobi. There we go.
Hey.
I saw Kobe Wang. I was like, that's weird. Why does the OKC front office think they can compete on the buyout market with the Golden State Warriors, Cleveland, and Boston? Because Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, I think they can compete to a certain extent. I mean, it comes down to who you want. It's not like you have to get the best player. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to consider Joe Johnson the best player in the buyout market, fine. But
But
Joe
is that
Johnson
who
is
we
no
want?
Joe Johnson's no longer a shooting guard. He's not. He might not even be a small forward anymore. He
He's
might be
kind of a
power
forward.
forward because he probably can't defend those guys.
Yeah.
And so you already have Patterson there. You already have Grant. You already have Hustis. I don't see a place for a guy like Joe Johnson.
That is the risk, though, that Presti's willing to take, is that they are going to be able to convince, one or two, probably one person,
Right.
to come here over, other places. Or those other teams will grab guys first and then.
Well, don't you think, like, you can look a couple years back? I mentioned Caron Butler earlier. Caron Butler. A guy, like, obviously not exactly him, but they were able to get him to come to Oklahoma City, and he contributed a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the long distance.
Yeah, that was the best. I forgot about that. Glad you brought that up.
From Felipe Costa at Costa Felipe. I guess the biggest two needs right now have to be backup shooting guard and backup center. Or not necessarily backup shooting guard, but definitely backup center. Which of the two do you guys think will be addressed in the buyout market, and how big of an impact will these potential additions make?
Well, I think kind of what we've been saying
Yeah.
is it's kind of shrunk to one need getting met, and I think it's going to be the shooting guard.
Yeah, I think it's that wing position as well. You agree?
Yeah, it has to be. I mean, I assume that there's going to be somebody that'll be out there that they can get. But if they do get a backup center, we've talked a lot about what that means for the team as a whole as well. So there's still value there. But yeah, it's
Sure.
such a huge hole with Robertson being out.
It's kind of like you feel better rolling with Patterson and Grant versus Abrinas and Hustis.
Yeah,
It's,
right.
Yeah. From Zach Weber 33 at Z Avalanche 33. If OKC doesn't
33
He's got a 33.
Oh my goodness.
every time.
if OKC doesn't get anyone that can help out in the buyout market and we end up the 6th seed, how disappointing will this season be?
Well, very. I mean,
The most.
it doesn't matter whatever situation it is. I mean, if you're the 6th seed, it's going to be disappointing.
But to that point, people will be pointing at the trade deadline to say, like, maybe, obviously you could have seen that at that point they were a 5. You should have done more to.
But what are the odds that they could have made a move?
Well, we don't know.
Yeah,
That's the biggest
you're right.
part.
You're right. But like, even with the names that are out there, Tyreek Evans, Avery Bradley, these names, like even Jonathan Simmons, if you want to throw, like, what are the odds that you acquire one of these guys and all of a sudden your team's for sure better? I mean, it's a risk either way,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but I think you want to see your team take a risk to get better rather than staying pat and just
being
kind
worse.
of hope that you.
Yeah,
are better.
and then again, it leads back to that discussion where it's like, well, when you do take that risk, is it worth the risk? Because is it going to make you that much better to where you're willing to sacrifice that depth or future,
right.
whatever? Yeah.
So 66K Sis asks.
EX.
EX, that's the question. Which NBA team did you guys like growing up prior to the Thunder coming to OKC?
I was
I
a
like
Bulls
this.
fan.
Sames.
Yep.
I think
that's the
I
round
actually
of-
really liked the
Yeah.
Hornets when I was young. I had a Hornets starter jacket because
Oh my God!
Did you?
So did I.
Oh!
Yes.
Muggsy Bogues was my guy.
Wow,
Muggsy
swear to
Bogues.
God, yeah.
Loved him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Nice.
did have. All right.
He likes baseball, so no, I'm just
I mean, you couldn't grow up in the '90s without
And
liking the
not like the
Bulls.
Bulls.
I
so-
know. Just,
Yeah, and obviously once the Hornets came to Oklahoma City, it was all Hornets. I actually kind of liked the Supersonics for a while.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really
Stuck
liked
with the franchise, huh?
I really like Seattle, but that was a long time ago. From Sam Finesti at the Thunder Geeks, reports are coming out that Oklahoma City is the favorite to land ISO Joe Johnson. Why would we need another Melo? They basically play the same position nowadays. And Joe Johnson, 29% from 3.
yeah, I'm not a fan of acquiring Joe Johnson, and I think I saw a report that the Warriors and the Celtics are the favorites also. So
Hopefully.
I don't know.
Although if he's on the Warriors, I just hate them so much.
I know, isn't it funny though? Like you can think of the Thunder acquiring a player, and you're like, nah.
Yeah.
And
But if
then
he goes there, you're
yeah,
like,
and then it's like the Warriors. You're like, no, we're getting him.
just go somewhere.
We don't want him.
Yeah.
You can't have him.
Yeah. Oh, he's gonna be amazing with you.
It'd be cool if we had a couple vetoes to throw their way. Be like, nope,
Oh, that is a
not
good
for you.
idea.
That is a great idea. When you win a championship, the rest of the league gets a veto.
Oh.
Ooh.
I like that.
Yeah.
Or
We could have vetoed that Jordan Bell thing they did in the draft.
Yeah.
Be like,
Boom. No,
dude,
we don't
They
like
would
it.
Bulls,
never
stop
get
it.
You're
another,
up to something.
They would never get another player.
they
That's just
would.
the idea.
or you lose a player in free agency, your franchise gets because there's no compensation for losing a player in free agency.
We
like
should,
that.
yeah, we should
Yeah.
be given a veto in that
The
case.
NBA kind of screws franchises
Okay.
over in that way, but yeah, it is what it is. From Evan McDeasy at Evan ETM. Well, realistically, this means Presti has faith in PG coming back because our championship chances are very low now. That's kind of a statement.
Well, that's
but
Yeah,
a
that's
bummer.
not a question. Why is that in there?
I don't even see that one in there.
I mean,
Next.
I gotta find my.
So Melo and Russ are both out with ankle sprains. Thanks, Shrag Patel.
they're out.
So they're both out. Daniel Hamilton will be active though.
This is going to be an interesting
Breaking
game of
sports
night.
news.
Well, luckily,
Oh damn!
that would have been. I wonder if they would have played had the Lakers been full. If they would have had everybody, I wonder how that. I wonder if they would have sat out.
Yeah.
Hopefully they.
Dude, way too late.
Delayed.
Double Jeopardy. Or wait, not double. Wait,
Yeah, no, that's
Daily
fine.
Double.
Daily
Double Jeopardy's
yeah.
a movie.
Whatever. It was a good.
And also in Jeopardy.
Yeah, both of those. Things.
Sound guy just fell asleep.
Next.
at the keyboard. From Cole Steffens at Cole Steff. Did beating Golden State without Robertson potentially hurt us in pursuing trades as aggressively?
I think that's a great question.
That is a good question.
And I think it's probably true. I think that they've already beaten Golden State once, and then you showed that you could do it again by even more points.
That seems crazy.
I don't think that Presti is tilting on each game, but I do think you see how the team played, that they held their own in that game, and that's the end goal. So
I guess it's possible. I guess my point was going to be that no way Presti looks at that game and is like, oh, never mind.
We're
I
good.
was going to do this.
No.
But, there's no
It just
way. Like,
completely changes his course.
yeah, because I think Presti is all about that big picture thing.
Yeah.
But I do also think that there could have been something in the back of his mind. Like, whenever you see that, like, that's the team to beat, and we just did so convincingly.
Yeah.
I do think there maybe is something in his back of his mind that he values the guys that he has a little bit more.
Such a big part of that was just the defensive energy that Russell
Oh,
Westbrook
yeah.
came out with, though.
So good.
I'm not saying that Russell Westbrook's defense won the game, but
Paul
to a
George's
certain
did.
extent. Yeah, Paul George. I mean, but you expect Paul George to do that.
Yeah, but
But
Russ.
when he
was
does
impressive.
that, man, you're on a new level. You're on a new level.
Why is my thing? From Ben at B Smoothin, do you still have optimism for our title chances? I sure as hell do, but a lot of Thunder fans are giving up like we didn't just crush the Golden State Warriors.
I like your enthusiasm, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about this team. This is the weirdest team I've
Very
ever
weird.
paid attention
So
to.
is your concern that you get into a 7-game series and it's just not the same as it is when you get them one time in the regular season?
I think
on that
that's part of
specific
it.
night?
That's part of it, and I think the depth that this
Yeah,
Thunder
that's
team
the
doesn't.
concerning part to me.
The
but
good thing is, like, Golden State doesn't appear to have a ton of depth.
Yeah.
Houston might be the deepest team of the three, in a weird way.
we stomped their asses too.
It was a close game. Chris Paul didn't play, so
Don't worry about that.
not relevant.
You kind of just have to hope that
I
if
remember
you're
winning.
matched up against Houston and Golden State, that they don't get hot for 4 games and you just can't overcome.
Is
that.
anybody more concerned by Houston than they are Golden State at this point?
little
Because
bit.
Houston tied in the
starting to? Yeah.
really.
I don't know.
I don't think actually, like, if you actually
Not
get to the
yet.
series, I don't think I would feel that way. But like, just for right now, I'm like, maybe they are more of a problem.
It is scary not having Robertson to guard Harden, though.
It is.
Oh man.
I miss him.
And wrapping it up from the Big Kiwi at Steven Adams, Son 1. Do you
He
think
has a
not
son.
making a trade at the deadline was more because of our lack of assets, lack of willingness to give up Ferguson's, or other reasons?
I think
Yeah,
that
we
lack of
answered that-
willingness to give up Ferguson is a
I
huge
think
part.
that was number one.
Because everybody, like, we got a bunch of calls about him apparently. So
Yeah, because like we've said on this podcast, I mean,
He's basically a first-round pick.
he was the Thunder's first round pick. So I think a lot of teams would have said, you know what, we like this guy too. He's 19 years old. We know what we're getting,
seems like a nice kid.
as opposed to entering a draft, with the 21st pick or whatever, and not knowing what you're getting. thing. So
You guys think Hamilton gets a triple double tonight?
that's gonna be a no from me, dog.
Almost averaging one